Hi everyone, I'm Noah, and today I wanted to come on and share with you my Bermuda Triangle, Tirua, Ange deck profile for Standard. And this deck I didn't expect to like as much as I do, and it's actually become my favorite deck from the new expansion to play. I think it has some really good matchups, and I also think it is really consistent, and consistency is something that I cherish above all other things in Vanguard. So I will not waste any time and get right into this deck profile. So the first thing is your starter. It can be anything. It doesn't really matter with this deck. Just choose whichever one you like the best. For grade 1s, I'm running 4 of the grade 3 Searcher. She's just your average grade 3 Searcher. And then her other skill is during your turn, if you have another unit in the same column as her, she gets plus 5,000 attack, which is really nice. Just makes for more pressure, more numbers, more combos. So yeah, she's really good. I'm also running 4 Mermaid Idol Ellie. She's a really good defensive card and also is annoying on board. So her skill is on Vanguard or Rearguard. When its attack or the attack it boosted hits a Vanguard, you can search your deck for up to 1 Mermaid Idol Ellie, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand, you retire this unit if it's on a Rearguard. And then on Guardian Circle, when it's placed, you put a copy of her from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, and she gets plus 10k shield. So she's just a nice defensive option. She's also something that people don't really want to let hit because it kind of thins your deck out and then sets up for that extra defense. So she's just a really, really, really good card. There's not much more to say about it. I think this deck can use a little bit extra defense sometimes, especially with the power that a lot of decks are swinging with now. That extra 10k really does help. It's like having an extra heal in your hand for guard. So it's really, really nice. And again, that pressure is something that sometimes the opponent wants to guard, which is good for you. So the next card I'm running is Tamed Cadence Katya. She has 2 skills. The first skill is on Rearguard during your turn. If any player's Rearguard was returned to their hand, this unit gets plus 5,000 attack. And also at the end of the battle that it attacked or boosted, if you have a Vanguard with Tirua and its card name, use Soul Blast 1, and you get to return all of your Rearguards in the same column as this unit to your hand, which is nice because you can kind of swing in, bounce, proc skills that require certain things to be bounced in a turn. It's really good, just helps kind of hit and run. And with decks that do heavy board retiring or targeting your board, this is a really nice card because they can just attack and then bounce back to the hand, which keeps your board open and doesn't lose you any units. It's also going to be good probably against things like Chaos Breaker that are coming out because they won't have targets. And then I'm just running 1 copy of Cuddle Connect Vanessa. This can be really anything you want it to be. I don't think it has to be her, but I just like this card. On Rearguard, at the end of the battle that it attacked or boosted, you put a grade 3 or greater card from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, put this unit into the soul and draw a card. It just helps kind of cycle your Tiruas if they're getting targeted or retired, and just keeps you set up so you can keep looping that, and I'll get to that later once we get to the grade 3s. So for my grade 2s, I'm playing 4 Top Idol Aqua. Its first skill is Vanguard Rearguard. During your turn, if you have another unit in the same column as this unit, it gets plus 5,000 attack. So like Sedna gets plus 5,000 if it's got something else in the same column. And if you have Sedna boosting this, it's plus 10k to that column, which is really, really nice. And then the second skill is Vanguard or Rearguard. When placed, you return up to 1 of your other normal units on Rearguard to your hand. If you returned a card, draw a card, and discard a card from your hand. And it can only be used by 1 Top Idol Aqua per turn, so you can't do the skill multiple times in a turn with different Aquas. It can only be used once. But that's a really nice skill. Again, it starts off the bouncing, so it starts adding to your bounce count for the turn, and helps you kind of filter your deck out a bit too. Then I'm running 4 copies of Electric Essence Sistico. Her skill is on Rearguard. During your turn, if any player's Rearguard was returned to hand this turn, this unit gets plus 10,000 attack. And on Rearguard, when placed, you may put a normal unit from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. If you put a grade 3 or greater card, you choose one of your opponent's Rearguards, and that unit cannot stand during your opponent's next stand phase. So that's kind of an interesting little annoying skill that the player is going to have to deal with. And her first skill is obviously nice, extra power. Again, this deck hits really big numbers, like really big numbers. So the power is always nice. And then again, if it's boosted by Sedna, that's extra, even more power. So these numbers are pretty big, and being already a Force Clan, is a nice thing. So she's just a really good card and obviously plays into the whole mechanic of this deck. And then I'm playing 4 copies of Fleeting Memoria Actiana. Her skill is continuous on rearguard. This unit gets plus 3,000 for each of your Vanguard's grades. And then her auto skill on rearguard at the beginning of your ride phase, retire this unit. Now that might not seem great, but don't forget you're going to be bouncing things back to your hand. So with Ange, so you can attack with her. She gets probably plus 9k, so she'll be a 19k swinger. If she's not on a force marker, if she's on a force marker, she'll be 29k, which is really good. And then you can just bounce her back with Ange's skill and then preserve her for the next turn so you don't have to retire her. So I teched her in here. I'm finding that she's really good. It adds to the pressure that this deck is already putting out, just makes it tougher for the opponent to guard. And yeah, I haven't seen any other list really playing her, but I like her quite a lot. And then obviously for grade 3s, we have 4 copies of Tirua. Her skill is on Vanguard. When placed, choose any number of normal units on any player's rearguard circle and return them to their hand. If 3 or more units were returned, this unit gets plus 15k until the end of the turn. And then Vanguard rearguard once per turn. At the end of the battle, it attacked. If 3 or more of any player's rearguards were returned to the hand, you can counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, stand this unit, and it gets drive -1 until the end of the turn. So this works kind of like Regalia does with Yggdrasil and Norn and that whole combo with Genesis. So basically, she can work on a rearguard circle, which is what makes this card great. Obviously on Vanguard it's fine, but when you combo with Ange, you can get her on a rearguard and then get her to attack twice with some force markers stacked underneath her. She can be really powerful, and especially because you can stack any Vanguard criticals or anything like that onto her as well after the drive checks. So she is a powerhouse and really makes this deck super powerful and very difficult to deal with. And also, if she gets retired, you have those recycling units from your deck that can just put her back into the deck, and you can just fish her out again with Ange's skill. So yeah, it's a really consistent, nice card that you can kind of preserve pretty well. The only thing is if it gets, I guess, bound by Narukami, that would be a little annoying, but you are running 4 copies, so you'll still be able to get the other ones out. And then obviously we have 4 copies of Perfect Performance Ange. She's going to be the main Vanguard you're going to want to ride. Her skill is on Vanguard. When it attacks a Vanguard, counterblast 1, choose any number of normal units on any player's rearguard circle, return them to hand, and then activate all the effects below according to the number of cards returned. So if you return 2 or more, she gets plus 10,000 to the end of the turn. 3 or more, you get an imaginary gift force, and 4 or more, you search your deck for 1 unit, call it to rearguard, and shuffle your deck. So what you're going to want to do is obviously get to that 4, and then you're going to probably want to call out Tirua because her skill will then proc where she'll be able to restand. You can get an extra force, plus Ange will get plus 10k. So it's just a really solid combo and very easy to pull off. I mean, it just happens so consistently. You're always probably going to have a Tirua that you can find in the deck between having her either already on the field, in which case you won't need to search for her, or you could search for a second copy, or if you cycle her back into the deck with one of your other skills. Don't forget we have those units that put things from the drop zone back into the deck, so you can just keep cycling her if they pop it or if they attack into it. There's no need to really worry about guarding for it or having to keep her on the field. You can just really set up that skill super easy. So it's just a really nice combo, really straightforward combo, and really consistent combo. And the thing I love about Ange is she kind of just allows you to, again, do that sort of hit and run skill where you just attack and then bounce everything back to the hand. It's good for guarding for the following turn. It leaves your field open, so any sort of field disruption effects don't really hurt you too bad. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really consistent deck, very straightforward, very easy to pilot, and very effective, because Tirua, when you get that extra force marker on her, plus any effects from triggers from your Vanguard, if they PG your Vanguard, it's just really huge numbers and huge pressure. Then for triggers, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to be running 8 criticals. Obviously, we're going to be running 4 heal, and then I like 4 draw PG. Some people, I guess, could run 12 crit if you want with the Sentinel crits, but I think for those huge numbers, it's really good to have the draw PGs. You're going to have good guard for any moderate level number of attacks. So between the bouncing things back to your hand to have units to guard with, and then also don't forget we're running Ellie, so she's extra guard as well. You should be able to cover yourself when it comes to most attacks, but then you're going to have those extreme cases where there's some huge number. So I like having the draw PGs for that. And like I said, I don't think the extra crit is really necessary because you're already going to have a lot of pressure. So it's nice to have a little bit of a defensive option as well. At least that's my preference. You can experiment and try more crits if you'd like, but I find that the draw PGs are really useful. And just drawing in general is nice. So that's pretty much the whole deck. Like I said, it's very consistent, very easy to pilot, and not too complicated. There's no real crazy combos, and it has that flavor of old school Bermuda that I love, which is this bounce mechanic. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We're a newer channel, so we're trying to grow followers, and definitely stay tuned for more deck profiles and channel content.